and welcome to the ComForConnections podcast. In this masterclass episode, Inspired Care, Leading and Empowering Your Caregiving Team, we're joined by Heather Vermillion. She is a registered nurse and owner of ComForCare Home Care, Strongsville office, serving Cuyahoga County. Listen in as we explore cultivating a culture of caring within caregiving organizations, including effective approaches for recruiting and retaining a strong caregiving team, along with leadership strategies that have proven successful in fostering a sustainable, caring atmosphere. Welcome, Heather. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Tiffany. I'm really excited to be here today.
Heather, let's start by having you share a bit about your background in your ComForCare location with our listeners.
So how I got to ComForCare Strongsville, Ohio. It was a long journey. I have to say that it started when I became a mom. That was my first actual 24-hour caregiving job, and it became a passion of mine, and I realized quickly it's something that I really enjoyed to do. And I was very grateful for the staff that saw me in labor and delivery, and I was like, oh, I think I might want to be a nurse or something someday. But I was a young mom. I was a single young mom living on my own, 19 years old. And an opportunity came up at the time, which was in the 2000s, to take a pilot class for LPN program. That was like a really fast-paced class, 9 months, 8 hours a day, 1,400 hours of clinical time on top of the 8-hour school day. And it was for the August through May school year. So it was very intimidating, especially, having to be a mom and work and provide and go to school. But I did it. And I think that's when I realized that when you truly believe in something that you're good at, you're creating the momentum that you need to get through other obstacles that come your way. So fast forward a little bit, I worked as an LPN in many areas, mainly in geriatrics and pediatrics, and that was in a home health agency. So it was the skilled end of what we do. And I enjoyed it, but I oftentimes felt like I was getting cut short because they were short visits. It wasn't really something I could really focus in on or pop in and see them. It was a scheduled short shift. So I came across ComForCare in 2015 when a friend of mine introduced me to Deb Vermillion and said she was looking for an LPN for a home care business. And at the time, I didn't know much about home care, but I was willing to learn, and the hours seemed good, and it was really exciting. And I had a lot of responsibility right away, and I was a little bit nervous about that. But it really did challenge me because there was so much to learn about home care. And there was such a demand and such a great need that I really felt like this was going to be my, final destination, if you will, as a nurse. I was really excited to be part of that team. And they were family owned and operated, and I liked that. And we had normal work hours, which is unheard of for nurses. You usually work 12 hours and on call and all this stuff. This was a 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. Yes, you had calls some days, but it was different. It was a different dynamic, and I really enjoyed it.
Thank you for sharing about your inspiring career and leadership journey. Can you now share a little bit about how you got started in creating a culture of caring within your organization?
So that's interesting because it really started with being a caregiver. When I first started here, I was still learning about what that actually was. And I was looking for a concrete answer to describe a caregiver. And I realized pretty quickly that caregivers have to be just as adaptable and diverse and flexible as the client. And it wasn't about, a job description. Yeah, you could put tasks on that. But the part that really stood out was there needed to be a relationship. It was more like a matchmaking game. So it was learning about people, and it was trying to figure out what I needed to put into place that I could use as a guide to build the culture that I wanted, and kind of naturally and organically weed out what didn't fit in our agency. So we tried all the things. And I found that in my own life, when I journaled about obstacles or hard times and good times, um, that when I reflect back on that, I'm able to see what types of things were in my way and what types of things worked and what resources were brought to me and what people influenced me. And obviously, I wanted to be that person for my care team, and I wanted to be able to remember where I came from, because it's really important to not expect somebody else to do something that you're not modeling, right? We want our team to be an witness to the care that we're delivering. So if I want you to do something, I should be doing it myself. So that's one of the very first things that I noticed that Deb had already established here at ComForCare. One of the first things she said to me was, no matter what's behind your name, we all work a shift. Our clients, are a priority. This is a business, and we run it this way because that's the right way. So when I remember that, and if ever I forget that, I always go back to remembering or reminding my team as well. Like, remember, we're all caregivers. It's not, she's the nurse, she shouldn't do that, or they're, HR, they shouldn't do that. When we hire our administrative staff and our team, our core admin team, we all sign up for the same thing, and it's a big commitment. It really is. I couldn't ask for a better team, because the amount of dedication they have and passion that they have for this career path it's incredible. And I'm very lucky to have 6 people in my office. Well, 5. My husband, he's the 6th that works alongside us with this team. And each and every one of us will drop what we're doing and troubleshoot or put out a fire or, come to the rescue to fill a shift if we're waiting for somebody to get there or there was a call off last minute. So that's where it started, was finding out what it was we had to do as a core admin team to model the behaviors that we were expecting, because we can't expect other people to act other than what they're witnessing, because it doesn't attract that same behavior.
Heather, such great insight. I especially appreciate the examples you shared and how you lead by example. What key steps have been essential in not only establishing this culture, but also in sustaining it over time?
We've had to also do some mapping for that. We have a lot of team meetings, and I think it's very important to have really great communication amongst your core team. And if they aren't there yet, you got to work on that first before you can have all of the other gears in motion. But the one thing that helps with that is setting a standard. It starts with that, actually, because you have to know specifically what that standard is so that everybody understands it, and not just understands it by reading it. I mean, like, understands it by seeing you do it, following them and providing corrective criticism, counseling, training, leadership, education. Because like I said before, we all work a shift, and that's part of the first thing that we have everybody do if they're new to our office is they go and visit as many clients as possible, whether it's on a training shift, whether it's, introducing a new caregiver, whether it's a couch visit or a case open. We have them meet as many people, and not just clients, but caregivers, to either shadow us and witness the way we talk about our business and the care that we deliver and why we stand out. And we use those 5 core values that ComForCare and at your side provide to set that standard, right? So, and it's worked in our favor in the fact that, as a matter of fact, just today, I told my team, I said, we need to mimic what they do at conference, and let's just do this for fun. Let's pull the 5 core values, and let's go through our caregiver roster and pick somebody that represents that core value. I think that is the next step that we should take in this culture building. So the standard is set by multiple factors. But then after you've set the standard, you have to have goals, and those goals have to be small leading up to the greater goal, which is to, have a plan in place so that we can continue to grow or maintain what we have. Because my biggest fear is we work so hard to get the quality of care that we're delivering and the quality caregivers we have. We don't want to lose them. So there needs to also be a standard for our clients as well. We won't tolerate abuse. We won't tolerate last minute cancellations with expectations of refund. We have to clearly communicate what we do and why we do it and how we deliver our care and why we're able to deliver our care. And when you have standards in place for both sides, the caregiver and the client, it's a great tool to reflect back on, because you can just pop through and just remind them, well, this is what we talked about at the beginning, and this is where we're at right now, and this is where we're struggling. And I need, it provides you a platform to utilize steps to correct and redirect your client, or correct and redirect the caregiver. And it leaves the ball in their court as to whether or not they're going to continue on this journey or move on, because we just want to make sure that we're not sacrificing the quality of care for the quantity of care that we're receiving. And then the goals, they have to be specific, and measurable and attainable and relevant and time bound. That's the SMART goal acronym. And we do that. We will make a goal, either an annual goal, a quarterly goal, and then we do weekly check-in goals and such like that. It's constantly moving, but everybody on my team, there's 7 of us in the office. Everybody on our team plays a part in the action plans that we have in place, in our goal setting, in our in attaining our goal. Everybody is involved in some area, in multiple areas, or like myself and my other nurse in all areas. And then, a big critical aspect of these points, or these keys that we use in making sure that we're staying on track, is to have a cheerleader. Because let's be real, there are bad days, there are setbacks, there was COVID, there are also, the culture of healthcare has changed greatly after COVID. We talk about before COVID and after COVID. We hear it so often. Our community and our residents and the seniors have changed. They are taking longer to bounce back from being in a isolated situation. They're fearful of doctors. A lot of doctors have retired or pulled out of healthcare. It's been a massive change. So they're coming back out and they're very hesitant. And that can make for a rough shift, a rough day, trust and everything else. So we got to have cheerleaders. So that's my third key, is having cheerleaders. And what cheerleaders looks like in our office is there are quotes or mantras or phrases for times when things are rough, or we're starting to feel the negative aspect of this kind of pile up on you. Because caregiving, when you're caring for somebody, and in our case, multiple people, we're not just caring for our clients, we're caring for our team, and we're caring for our staff, and we're caring for their families. And it can be overwhelming, extremely overwhelming, especially with all the different personality types. So instead of correcting somebody or bringing it down even more, our team has come up with phrases. This is a time where my husband would bring in the phrase that kind of brings us back to home base, which I spoke about earlier. The standard, and his favorite, he's a Steelers fan, man, and he loves the Steelers. So Mike Tomlin says the standard is the standard, and he's right. My husband and the Steelers coach, when you think about it, the standard's the standard, and that's the answer. It's kind of like saying no is a complete sentence. The standard's the standard. We set it for a reason, and we need to stick to that. So when we hear one of us on the team kind of drifting off into that negativity, we, instead of saying don't be negative, for instance, you would say standard is a standard, and it's kind of like your cue to move on. We're going to move on from this, and we're going to put it aside. We can, talk later or whatever. And then we have to do the right thing. That's something I always say. Even when I'm problem solving, I'm like, we have to do what's right. And for such a short sentence, that's such a big task, because doing what's right oftentimes takes a lot more effort and energy and time and thinking, and it causes a little bit more stress at times, but it helps us sleep at night, and we know that we're sticking to the standard for that. And we can do hard things. So these are some of the things that we say. to each other throughout the day. When somebody's struggling or I hear a mumble or, grimace when I ask somebody to do a chart audit or something like that, I'm like, we can do hard things. Come on, keep it up. So every now and again, we try to use these terms, and especially in preparation for things like audit, I always tell my team, I know it's stressful right now, but just remember this is temporary. And we use these cheerleaders to have a neutral playing field to just keep on keeping on, if you will. And it seems to work. It works because it's not causing any further hits to my team that are already feeling it.
Thank you for sharing your approach to fostering a culture of caring and how you incorporate core values, goals, and the way that you support each other in your team's daily practice. Heather, you mentioned the importance of setting a standard and the importance of mentoring and training. How do you ensure that your team has the skills and competencies needed to excel in their roles?
Oh, that was one this one I had to really think about for a while. We've been changing it up and down and turning it around and all the different things that we do. And then I realized really quickly you can't just you have to go back to reading people and reading situations. So we start with support. It's a very small word for a whole lot of ways of doing that. So showing support, what does that look like? A heck of a lot. So thank goodness for ComForCare, ComForInfo at your side tools, because we're able to use the videos. And the app allows us to insert videos into our care plans so that it's kind of like a backup tool to keep the standard, there. Watch the video, follow the video, and then the trainer also is making sure that you're doing it the way the video shows. We use YouTube trainings. We use demonstrations. We have a skills lab in our office. There's a mannequin in there. We have a Hoyer lift, a full-fledged training room. And over the years, we've collected, items that were never used and donated to us, like wheelchairs, assistive devices, even fully catheter kits that we can show the different types of valves and clamps and clips and straps and types of things that can throw a caregiver off, right? And I think that when we're able to get people to actually touch and see and do things in an environment that mimics where they're going to be, our training room is not large. It's a smaller room, but it does have a hospital bed. It does have a manual Hoyer. It does have a bedpan and a lip pad, and we have our team train the initial competency checklist in there so that the caregivers can ask questions. They can use a glucometer. They can check vital signs with an electronic cuff or a manual cuff, and get checked off on that checklist. And this gives them the opportunity to build their confidence in knowing that they've already done it. And they've already touched it and saw it. So when they see something that's a little bit different, they're already familiar. So the support is very important, and it's ongoing. It is not just at the beginning. We do hands-on training for each first shift and anytime there's a change in care. And what that means is if somebody has a new device, if somebody's mobility status has changed and we need to show them what hands-on assist looks like, stuff like that. We also offer our team, as we are growing, our stronger seasoned caregivers to provide shadow shift training on their more difficult cases, because this now aids in the care of that client. And it is teaching them a standardized way of caring for somebody who's using a sit to stand, or somebody who has a ceiling lift, or somebody who has Parkinson's disease or diabetes, or somebody that's strictly, exercise and diet, or fall prevention, or a sitter case. It shows them that other people are doing what is expected, and that there is room for the more inexperienced caregiver to grow into that role. And we train. We train constantly, and we pay our caregivers and we pay both the caregivers. So the seasoned caregiver gets a training rate of pay, and then the caregiver that is learning also gets paid, but not, it's a training pay. I think it's minimum wage in our state, but it's still a paid training, and it's and the rest of it, like the videos on Relias, it's priceless to us. More knowledge, why would we not want them to do that? So they are allowed to go on Relias so long as that they're working the regular shifts. They are allowed to go on Relias and do unlimited training as long as it's in the scope of their practice and in our country and state, and just get as much education as they want. And then, of course, dementia-wise. Dementia-wise is huge. It is, we have had so many people complete the Dementia-wise 2.0 already, because they have to complete Dementia-wise 1. And they do that in record time because we offer I think it's a 25-cent raise. Not much, but incentive. But they also get a pin that we order, and it's recognized. They can show it off to their clients, and we recognize them with a certificate, and we utilize the tags. So the tags in the system that say they're Dementia-wise certified help us place caregivers that are Dementia-wise certified into client cases, and in turn, when they see under the headline of the client must be Dementia-wise certified, it puts a fire underneath the caregivers to, well, I better get that, because they get more money and they get more challenging cases, and it creates a culture of educated caregivers. And as far as that goes, I mean, each care team member in my office have different communication styles. So when I'm sending a trainer out, I will very carefully pick who that trainer will be based on the caregiver they're training. If I need somebody to be a little bit more demonstrative, I will send a certain person for that training shift. So again, it goes back to knowing who you're working with and what learning style that they have, and who's going to be effective, and who's going to make that caregiver feel confident and the client feel comfortable before, coming out of that.
I really love how you customize your training to the individual. Having an empowered and competent caregiving team is crucial for delivering quality care. Throughout healthcare, staff turnover continues to have a major impact. Could you share some of your strategies for recruiting and retaining your caregiver team?
Yes. So, job listings, I went back to those because I realized that I wasn't paying much attention to them lately since my husband had taken over the HR position. And I read them, and they just kind of blended in with everybody else's job listings. And so I was like, all right, we're going to rewrite these. So I got really creative. I focused on why would anybody want to work here? What makes somebody want to come and work anywhere, right? I was very flattered by the awards we won at conference. And so then I was like, you know what, we're going to just go to our, why choose ComForCare Strongsville paper that I made. And I just started pulling from there. And like I said before, the on-site training, the support, I just, kind of confettied our job listings with focusing on those rewards of caregiving, not talking about it being like just a task-oriented job and you have to have these credentials. It was, do you want to work for an award-winning office who has been voted great place to work by its employees for the last 4 years, et cetera, something like that. And we found right off, like, I think I posted them on a Friday night, and that Saturday morning, my husband's like, we got 166 applicants in our career plug portal. And I was like, wow, I wasn't expecting that. But now we just kind of, tweak them a little bit and make them a little bit, as we gain more confidence and as we gain more awards, or as we see little, sparkles of accolades that we've reached, we add them in, and you just sprinkle it in, and it becomes a desired place of employment. And now we are recruiting better people because we want people to want to work here. We don't want them to feel like they just have to find a job and we're their choice. We want them to be like, hey, I work for ComForCare. Come work for that. And then once they come in, I got my team together and we had our regular interview questions. Do you have a car, insurance, yada, yada, yada. I started doing some research on creative interviewing and capturing more than just answers to questions, capturing reactions, capturing what a caregiver would do if you ask them something kind of off or not relevant to an interview question. So I told my team I want everybody to come up with 5 questions. And out of those 5, we're going to pull 2 or 3 and we're going to add them to our interview questions. So we have some questions that say, if you were an animal, what kind of animal would you be? And we ask them verbally. We don't have them fill it out. We ask them verbally. We do it through conversation because we want to see their reaction. If somebody were to respond with, well, that was a dumb question. What does this have to do with caregiving? I know off the rip there would be an issue with communication in that sense. I know that there would be not only issues between our office and that there would be issues between the family or the caregiver. When I hear people talk about what kind of animal would they would be or pick to be and why, it's interesting. We once had a man say he wished he could be an ant because he feels like they're organized and they are hard workers and they, have structure, and it was pretty interesting. So you learn a lot about people by the questions you ask, right? So instead of the 5 basic questions, we've implemented so many. If what's your favorite color? What do you like to do in your spare time? My favorite 2 questions are, what are your weaknesses and what are your strengths? And I've added a challenge question to the weakness part because a lot of times we have people say, well, I don't have any weaknesses. And I feel like that's a personal growth thing. And I bring that to surface when I'm doing the interview and just tell them, well, I'm here to help you work on finding out what your weaknesses are because we all have them, whether it's caring too much, lack of self-care, putting others before your own needs. And I think a lot of caregivers don't view that as a weakness. They view it as only a strength. And when I bring it back and say, well, how are you going to be a caregiver if you're not caring for yourself? Eventually, you're going to burn the candle at both ends. So that the interview question piece was really fun. It was a fun activity. Sometimes we'll be like, hey, add this one and take that one out, different things like that. And then showing up, ongoing caregiver support, like I said before. If we say we're going to be there, we do our best to be there. If I promised somebody that I would be at a shift training or I said I was going to be at an intro and I can't make it, I send the next available person. Because usually whatever is pulling me away is because I'm a nurse and I have to do whatever else that needs to be done. So I send somebody else from our office. Like I said, it's wonderful to have everybody committed to that because it's then saves us from not keeping to our promises. If we see we're falling short in somewhere, if we're seeing that we're growing really fast, I just go back and say, all right, we need to find more people. And do we want them in the office or do we want them on foot? And we create new job positions like trainers or coaches or on-call, intro personnel that are either nurses or STNAs or home health aides who have gone through our program, who have excellent ratings, who have been with a company 5-10 years. They're the ones that are doing these things because we can trust that they know the culture that we want to exhibit. And then events. It's very important. So recognition, I remember, reflecting back on my own life. I just felt like I was going to work, I was coming home, and I wasn't being seen. My work was being criticized for either not being finished because I wasn't allowed to stay over, or it was I stayed over and why can't I get my work done in the time that I'm supposed to? And it's because I care about what I'm doing and I'm not going to cut somebody short. And that's what's the beauty is of working here is I can stay as long as I need to. And I tell my team, which is a very difficult thing to tell people who have been living in this industry because they're so used to I can't stay over. We pay the overtime. We want the quality of care. So when we host events, we pull out, I think, I don't know, perfect attendance awards, having fun awards, care like family awards, all of the core values, showing up, most shifts picked up, most hours worked in a day, or activities or most creative. I mean, we just go all out. I think we gave away 48 prizes at our last caregiver event in March, and they were all donated. And that's thanks to my admin team creating letters and going on foot and telling people about what ComForCare is and what we do and who we serve in the local communities. And we had car wash, like hundreds of dollars of car wash, food, like McDonald's and Dairy Queen, cards. Like I think Kim came back with a stack of cards and they were like free birthday cakes and blizzards and ice cream cones that we throw in their birthday cards. We recognize our caregivers for their birthdays, for dementia wise, for education completion, for mentorship, for exhibiting the core values. And we have an entire shelf that I shop at my favorite craft stores for, to have activities for them to come pick up for free and take to their clients and use to create a meaningful activity and connection. And then senior fairs and job fairs, we ask our caregivers to go with us. I ask my team to go out and do it. I don't feel like I should be the only face out there. I want them to know that there are other crucial members to our team that are in the community that are really good at what they do. And it gives them a break. And it gives them like the ability to use what they know and apply it to something they like doing. My administrative assistant, she does fairs, craft fairs and such like that all the time. So she's taken a handle on that. I think we've done more fairs this year in the last 8 months than we have done ever since I've worked here. And it's been really rewarding. And it gives our team, more time out in the community and less time just doing the 9 to 5 thing and feeling, like they have the ability to talk confidently about what they do and have a greater respect for their role. And she's not just a caregiver. She's a crucial member of our team. So it gives her that marketing experience too.
I really appreciate your creative approach to recruitment and retention. And I think that's a big reason why your office won the Having Fun Value Award at our annual conference. It really attributes to that being creative in your approach to what you're doing and being really mindful about that. Pivoting to leadership approaches, what are a few of the strategies that have been successful in creating and sustaining a culture of caring and excellence?
So that's interesting because that's been my own personal journey as well. And this kind of goes back to what I was talking about at the beginning, when we have to recognize and model what we're asking others to do, right? So self-care and support, number one. It starts at the interview even when they say that they don't have any weaknesses and I can already tell there are people-pleasing caregivers that just want to do well and do good. So I really stress self-care and support. And, if I'm going to expect that, I need to kind of do that myself. So I've taken the leadership role of self-care in my own personal and professional life. And I take better care of myself now. I, set boundaries. I plan for time off so that I'm not spent and I have something to look forward to. And I'm able to give organic, real, scenarios to my team when I'm like, it looks like you're really struggling right now. I want you to take a day off, and just kind of recoup, breathe, get your stuff together and then come back. And, they're like, I can't believe you're telling me this. They're like, really? Are you sure? I'm like, yes, paid day. Just do what you got to do, and it's just kind of like a way of saying like, thank you. And then validate, giving them permission to care for themselves. I don't think many caregivers get that in any caregiving situation. Doctors, nurses, therapists, aides, STNAs. I don't think anybody gets that. And I myself have a business coach and I journal regularly. So, every now and again, I'll throw a tip in that resonated with me on either like a personal / professional, stance, just to shoot out to all of the caregivers and like, hey, by the way, did you know that journaling can blah, 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 blah? Or did you know that these things can, decrease stress? Or even like a little video of like different types of deep breathing, things that will help them, attain the self-care. Because I think when you're not doing self-care, you don't know what it looks like. So you don't know how to get it or how to find it or how to ask for it. So when I gave them permission, I see it less call-offs. I see less burnout. I see more, planned time away. And we've also implemented, for those people that have been here over a year, they get vacation days. And then, I think back a couple months ago, I had really loved my massage therapist because she was concierge. And I said, you know what, can you come to my office and offer 20-minute massages for the last half of the afternoon? And my whole admin team was able to get away from the phones and the fire extinguishing and just go chill and relax and have a wonderful massage, which was really nice. And then, of course, moving on to other ways, joining leadership groups. I need support so that I can support, right? So it doesn't end with me just telling people what to do. I have to continually do the things I'm asking others to do if I really want to be authentic. So, I joined a local women's group, and there are female business owners in this area, and they have provided me with such amazing support that I didn't even know I needed at the time. I was a little bit nervous when I joined at first. It just was very overwhelming, and I'm a new business owner, and I've got all these things waiting for me at the office. But that breakup in my month, for me to have that 2 hours twice a month to see my friends and to make these connections and get the support, advice, referrals, be invited to events that were, going to help us grow as a business and help me grow as a professional owner, and also have the support from like-minded people who are dealing with the same situations as us that will continue to give me supportive advice rather than trying to burn down, the bridges. I love it. I think it's great. And I would like to cultivate something like that for my team, whether that looks like a support group in our office, something like that. And of course, the core values. In learning, you will teach, and in teaching, you will learn. One of my favorite quotes. The most effective way to teach something is to learn it well enough to be able to teach it. It is definitely a practice. And so this past year, my husband and I went through the Matter of Balance training, and we hosted, I believe, 3 on our own. And we got invited to do like 4 or 5 more. And I'm like, I don't know if we can commit to that. That's like the rest of the year, and it's a lot. So I said, you know what? We can commit to that. We're going to have our team, everyone's getting trained. And so my husband and I took the phones for the 2 days that they were in training and got them through the program. And we've hosted, it will be 5 Matter of Balance training sessions this year, which, if nobody knows what they are, they're 8-week classes, 2 hours each week. And we have 2 running right now, one on Wednesdays and one on Fridays. And I have one more coming up the end in October to finish off the year. So I'm really excited about that. It's a great learning experience. It's creating future business, and it's growing my team, and they're becoming better leaders because of it. And they're also able to pull what the new, senior devices are what new senior devices are being used in the community, what new programs are out there, what the needs are that are not being met that are out in the communities. And they bring that information back to me, which is great. And then, of course, community involvement. I want to develop my team, as we're all different. We're all from different areas of life, and we're all of different ages. So whereas somebody might be more tech savvy and somebody might be more crafty, I try to develop them and keep them in those roles that they're good at, not to not put them in a situation where they, have to feel uncomfortable or step outside their zone every now and again, because that's how we grow, right? But I want them to also feel like some days they're really able to be themselves and to use their gifts and their unique differences to do what they are passionate about in representation of ComForCare.
Thank you, Heather, for sharing your leadership strategies with our listeners. As our session is coming to a close, what additional advice would you offer to aging services leaders who are working to build a culture that inspires and empowers their caregiving team?
Keep an open mind, be adaptable, and remain positive to the feedback that you receive. That's really hard to do. But if you meet your challenges with a negative attitude, your brain is naturally going to cherry pick those negative responses to the problem, and you're not going to be able to fix it. You have to practice active listening, and you got to do it correctly so that you can create a positive response and really reflect on it. Don't be too anxious to get a yes answer or a happy answer or make somebody just happy. It's okay to tell people you're working on something or you need to think about something a little bit longer so you can give them a better answer. And you want to understand their perspective. So paraphrasing and saying what I'm hearing is, this, or what you're trying to tell me is this correct? I mean, you need clarification so that you know that you're working on the solution. And once you've nailed that, keeping an open mind, remaining positive, and not having expectations of the feedback you're asking for, your solutions are endless and your possibilities are infinite. And you just got to work at it. And it's a constant practice.
Heather, I feel inspired, and I'm sure our listeners are as well. Thank you for sharing these insights with our listeners, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
Listeners, to view resources, show notes, and access more Comfort Connections episodes, visit ComForConnections.com. You can also subscribe and listen to our podcast on your favorite app. Thank you for listening and helping older adults live their best life possible.